Salam Radio 106.2 FM.
Hello, it's me. I have finally found the courage to speak about those days I was younger, so naive. Now my heart is breaking up, 'cause I know I let you down. Hello.
Assalamu alaikum, all the listeners and viewers of Salam Radio 106.2 FM.
In the mirror, all I see is
Welcome you all for another lovely episode of Mom and Me Radio Navigating the Youth Journey.
full of pain.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Zoya Idris and I welcome you to Mama Radio Navigating the Youth Journey. अच्छा, अब बहुत अच्छा और बहुत स्पेशल गेस्ट आए हैं और उनका नाम है मिस
Madiha Riaz.
Madiha Riaz. And मैंने पूछा भी है आप मैंने सुना है आप NHS पर हैं.
बिल्कुल. तो आज इस प्रोग्राम की तवज्जो से हमने इनवाइट किया है as a very I would say a very famous in a sense that she is helping a lot for the community, and we would love to hear all the conversations when you have the interview. So let's welcome to the show and let's welcome to the profound guest with us. It's Miss Madiha Riaz. She's NHS paramedics. Assalamu alaikum, Madiha.
Walaikum salam.
Welcome on board.
Thank you very much for having me.
Lovely. We've been waiting for long to have you in our show. कुछ मसरूफियात की वजह से हम प्रोग्राम को ऑन गैस पे नहीं कर पाए थे, लेकिन चूंकि अब हमें मौका मिल गया है, सो हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना आज आपसे मुलाकात की जाए और आपसे गुफ्तगू की जाए. We just have a conversation. We just need to know inside out about your profession and the role you're definitely dedicating for the whole community. तो इस पे बात होगी. चूंकि हम co-host हैं, मैं myself Dr. Erum और Zoya Idris. चूंकि प्रोग्राम को आज जोया ही लेके जाएंगी और जोया के पास बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं, लेकिन इससे पहले कि हम क्वेश्चंस का आगाज़ करें और मदिया से बातचीत का सिलसिला शुरू करें, let's you know, if you want to be the part of our show, then you can definitely dial us live in the studio 01733602133 पर, और अगर आप चाहें हमें अपना कोई टेक्स्ट ड्रॉप करना तो you can do through 07411191062 पे. तो बहुत ही प्यारी, बहुत ही फंटास्टिक पर्सनालिटी आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं, Miss Madiha Riaz, NHS paramedics. Over to you, Zoya. अब आपकी बारी है.
तो मेरे पास थोड़े से क्वेश्चंस हैं.
ओहो, अच्छा, तो पहले तो हम मदिहा से उनसे पहले पूछ लें खुद से, और आपके सवाल भी जारी रखेंगे. मदिहा, I would like to introduce yourself to all the listeners and viewers of Salam Radio 106.2 FM, please, and your role as well as a paramedics.
Absolutely. So my name's Madiha. I'm 24 years old. I'm currently a paramedic with the East of England Ambulance Service. I have been studying for various years. I'm sure we can obviously divulge into that shortly. But yeah, so I'm currently out of Peterborough, but we travel all around Cambridgeshire.
Oh, bless you.
So the whole of East of England, so there's quite a few miles to cover. But it's the best job and I'd do it 100 times over.
Oh, Zoya, over to you, please. What are your questions? Chunki hamara jo show hai, Madiha, let me tell you, it's bridging the gap of different generations. So parents, kids, because mom is asking questions, and in context, what daughters or kids of this age group are thinking about dealing with different professions, people of different community. So we are just coming across different people and inviting them, ताकि सिर्फ बड़े ही नहीं बल्कि इस उम्र के बच्चे भी उससे मुस्तफीद हो सकें. They just want to know your role, your passion, ताकि वो reflection इनमें भी देखी जा सके, just to help the community. Right, Zoya, please.
So मेरे पास एक question है. So when you said you would do that loads of times in your life, and I understand that, because if I had a job as being in paramedics, I would also do that like so many times that I wouldn't even be able to count. But I want to ask you, why did you choose this profession?
I don't go into work thinking this is my job. I wake up every day thinking, I'm excited for work. I can't wait to go into work and actually do my job. I never wake up thinking, I've got a shift to cover, I've got 12 hours to work. I truly think this job has opened my eyes out to the wider public, and going home knowing that I've made a difference, even if it's just helping someone that's fallen on the floor, to a time critical patient, the fulfillment that you have at the end of the shift and knowing that you've made a difference, it is what makes me think, do you know what, I'd happily do this over and over again.
MashaAllah, that's really beautiful. It's reflecting your feelings and emotions when you're saving lives.
Absolutely. Saving
humanity, isn't it? Wonderful. Right. Zoya, do you have any other questions? आप पूछिए जो आपको पूछना है आज.
So I just wanted to ask another question about what's just been talking about. And so I want to ask you, if you have at least like 12-hour shifts, and you have because when I was little, I used to always think that police officers and when people that work in ambulances, they used to like never ever used to sleep, and that's what I used to think. And I have known a little bit about ambulances and police officers in school, and they've taught us this. But I want to know exactly, do you, like every single day, do you have to wake up at night at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock?
Yes, I would say that, exactly. I mean, I think child of different age groups, and if they don't know anything about, and paramedics, I mean, they know doctors, engineers, nurses. But this is the most important profession, because you're saving lives with you, aren't you? And we, all people around us, they really should know your routine, how hard it is. I really want you to people and listeners and viewers to tell about your routine. How do you look the life into it? How do you manage it?
So it's a job that's 24 hours around the clock. We will always be out there to help people. So you work on shift patterns. So, I will tend to do maybe 2 day shifts and then 3 night shifts, or vice versa. But in terms of like a typical week's, waking up, I have some shifts that may start at 6 a.m. in the morning. So luckily for me, I live in Peterborough. I work in Peterborough, so it's not too far of a commute for myself. So, waking up perhaps around, 4:30 in the morning, getting ready for work, making sure I have my lunch and everything prepared, and then going to work. And then, sometimes it is hard to switch off between starting from a day shift to a night shift, but you make it happen. You make it happen because it's something that I enjoy doing, and personally for me, I love a night shift. So for me, I don't mind switching in between the two. But yeah, you have different jobs, whether it's a day shift or a night shift, but I think it's a personal preference whether you enjoy day shifts or night shifts. Yeah. And then you go from there.
So 24 round the clock, you are alert.
Yeah.
Because it's just a matter of anything could happen anytime, isn't it? And they're like, oh my God, on the call, and just go. There we go. Just coming to save lives, isn't it?
That's it. I thought about this the other day. I was outside a patient's house, and we were just finishing the paperwork off, and we left the patient at home because they didn't require like a conveyance to hospital. Yeah. So we've safety netted them, and we've left everything that we needed to at the home, and got care for them within the community. And I just thought, it's 3 a.m. in the morning and the whole street is asleep, but I'm up in my ambulance, awake and alert, ready for the next job to come. Yeah. And I think that's quite special in itself, because you don't have many people that can easily just say, I'm up, I'm awake, I'm ready to go and, save a life or help a patient. So, yeah, I think it was like a light bulb moment for me, and I just thought, I'm here awake at, some people may think silly o'clock in the morning. Some people, maybe sleeping, commuting to work or anything like that. But just being in a random street in Peterborough, thinking, my home is just a few minutes away, but I'm awake and I'm doing this
Have my
job.
goosebumps.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially
Just
at this,
so you're making me feel like my tears are coming from my eyes. Like very motivational, very affectionate. To be honest, just think about as a human being. It's like angel coming in and like just looking forward and like saving because people are asleep, but you are on a big motive, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You are on the go. You are on your work. For the big motivation for a big thing, you're just doing it definitely. So wonderful. That definitely we just really regard and we really respect those professions, isn't it? Because you can do all professions are definitely equally respectable, but when you're talking about saving humanity and mankind in terms of our own religion and all religions as well, it's definitely a big profession. So for me, it's a very, very respectful profession, and we really regard it throughout all concerns of the humanity. Right, Zoya, do you have any other questions to ask, please?
I have another question to ask, and that is, how was your childhood like?
Yeah, sorry about that.
My childhood was just like any other person's childhood,
Yeah.
A happy, loving childhood. I am a sibling of 6. So, the house was never quiet. We were always,
Engaging and
absolutely, one happy dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
You're fighting
Oh,
one minute,
mashallah.
you're playing with each other the other minute. But yeah, I think, I had a really happy childhood and just, engaging with friends and family, school, clubs and all sorts. Yeah, I think it's formed me into how I am as a person now. From a young age, I always wanted to go into the medical profession. Just a standard happy childhood.
Standardized childhood, like other
Yeah.
people do have, just
Absolutely.
lovely, happy child, cheerful, cherished. Okay. Anything in your childhood, any memories which you want to share with, which you still remember? Just start laughing when you think about it.
Do you know what? It's completely off topic, but climbing Ben Nevis. So it's a mountain in Scotland.
Yeah.
And I remember doing it when I was in school. And is that something you've done, Zoya?
I have never climbed a mountain in my
do you
life.
know
Because
what?
it's opposite. That's why.
I'm not that afraid unless I am hooked up to at least 1 million belts.
Got you. No belts, nothing at all. And, from a young age, I was always scared of heights. But this opportunity arose and I thought, I want to do this. And honestly, it's one of those memories that sticks with me. And it makes me think I pushed through my boundaries and I thought, you know what, I am scared of heights, but I'm going to do this.
Do you know, I think it's really important sometimes you push the boundaries and
Absolutely.
you feel inside of you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise you can't explore it.
Because it's the same with this job that I'm doing, You go to the unknown. With emergency medicine, you don't know what job you're going to get. And especially pre-hospital care, you can go from, a childbirth for one job. You can go to, an old granny that's fallen on the floor. To, a road traffic collision. So that, the jobs are so far and few in between. You have to constantly switch your mind to which job you're going to. So really pushing yourself out of the boundaries really does help because you don't know what you're going to.
Absolutely.
So, me climbing Ben Nevis is something that I thought I'd never do, but I did. And, I climbed it within, going up and down within 9 hours, and that's not heard of. But I thought I want to do this. And don't get me wrong, there's so many times where I thought, I can't do this, I give up, I want to quit. But I thought, I'm like 4,000 feet in the air. I have to come down somehow. But pushing through all of your weaknesses and thinking, do you know what, I can do this.
Yeah.
Changing your mentality and just thinking, if I don't, who else will? And it's got me where I am now. So
Wonderful.
I am quite appreciative of what I have done in my
I'm
childhood.
alive, isn't
I'm
it?
alive. That's it. Yeah.
Just one random question.
Yeah.
When you were facing your fears, did you scream really hard?
I think
Just a random question.
I think you're constantly facing your fears. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how old you are, whether you're 5, you're 25, or you're 55, you're constantly facing your fears. I wouldn't say I'm one to scream. I don't even think I have actually ever screamed in my life. Maybe out of excitement, but it's one of those things where you just kind of have to ground yourself and you just have to think about the bigger picture and just think, you know, for example, when I was on that mountain, I thought I can't do this, but ultimately I have to get down somehow. So I have to go to the top in order to get to the bottom. You have to fight through, you know, all the what ifs and maybes, and just power through and just get to the end and just think, you know, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to keep pushing, because if you don't, you know, you'll end up, you know, it's one of those ones where you have to laugh, because if you don't, you'll end up crying, and you just have to do it. You have to push yourself, because if you don't, you'll just stay in the same position you ever will be in your life.
So you have to choose the options. You have to, isn't it?
But it's a bit like fight or flight. You know, when something, you know, when the going gets tough, you have a decision to make. You either continue with it and power through, or you just give up. And I'm not one to give up. I will push through.
That is a spirit. Wonderful, Medea. Lovely. Right. Yes, it's definitely. I just have a few questions about, definitely, we talk about fight and flight. And it just brings to my mind adrenaline, to be honest, when you talk about that hormones emergency. So what different emergencies you come across when you are on the go in your job?
So
very, very common emergencies you just deal with.
Common everyday to day emergencies. I feel like because a lot of people can't get in contact with the GPs nowadays, it's unfortunate that, you know, people will then contact 999 emergency services for stuff that can be dealt with in the community. So I feel like nowadays I do tend, you know, you have like your 999 TV shows, and it's all like your Gucci jobs, like going to, you know, time critical jobs and, you know, accidents and stuff like that. But I feel like nowadays you tend to go to a lot of care home jobs, whether it's your big sepsis jobs, so, you know, a case of there's an infection and it's now got out of control, something that could have been dealt with within the community, to stuff like a lot of mental health jobs, because we, you know, as a country within the United Kingdom, we don't have enough mental health resources. Stuff like chest pain. Chest pain is one of the biggest forms of jobs that we go to.
Medical emergency, you come across, So is it in the hospital, or just like on the road, or just homes, care homes?
I'd say pre-hospitally, so, you know, on the road. But, you know, in terms of like my last week worth of jobs that I've done, I've gone to, you know, a patient who was riding her horse, and her horse jumped too high. She fell off the horse, and the horse rolled over onto her. And then we had the helicopter out for her. So that was, you know, a big time critical job. And she was transported to Addenbrooke's for emergency procedures, to road traffic collisions, because, you know, it's winter. We're now starting to get to icy weather and
fogs in the air.
Absolutely. And, you know, people losing control of their vehicles, to, you know, your standard chest pains, you know, chest pains where it can be as simple as we just take you to the nearest hospital, or someone is now having a heart attack and we have to intervene and give certain medications and take them to the nearest hospital that will treat them, and that would be Papworth in Cambridge, to, you know, small things like falls. Falls, you know, it doesn't seem as big of a job, but it can be quite interesting when you do go to a job, because, you know, you can have patients that have fallen on the floor, and, you know, they've been on the floor for 4+ hours, and then you're instantly thinking, okay, if they've not moved off the floor, you know, have they got toxins now releasing into their body? And you know, something that could have been as simple as, let's just pick them up because they are hemodynamically stable and they can, you know, we can just pop them into their bed and get, you know, a GP to come out and see them, to now thinking, you know, is there a case of they have multi-organ failure because there's something called rhabdomyolysis which is kicking in, to someone then falling and having, you know, a massive head injury. So the jobs vary, and you have to then constantly switch in between which job you go to a stabbing. You know, I went to a patient who had been stabbed 4 times the other day. And it was a case of we needed to pre-alert him into hospital to get him the interventions that he needed as soon as possible. But yeah, you go to a wide range.
I know, even the choking, asthmas, allergies.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely.
Oh my God! I think about it, and I start panicking, and you guys definitely deal with it with all courage and like stabilize yourself first.
Because if we don't, who will?
Absolutely. This is there's a significant point in it.
I find this really interesting.
Yeah.
Like the most interesting part was just now that someone just got stabbed, but I feel like that's interesting. That's what's happened to them. Who did that? So like when there's like a stabbing something situation, it's just like you're wondering who did this, and you need to get that person away from that person immediately. You need to take that person to hospital immediately. You have to give them surgeries if it's a really, really, really bad injury, and you need to do loads of things.
Loads of interventions. It depends on what situation it is. But on the top, the team has to be calmed down, stabilized.
They need to calm the patient down.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's very important.
I think one thing about me in particular, all of my colleagues that I've worked with, the one thing they'll always say to me is, they call me by my nickname, which is Mads. And they're like, Mads, you're so calm and collected.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the thing is, if I panic, the patient's panicking. And I can't panic because ultimately I'm the senior clinician and I can't do that.
Absolutely.
Inside I may be screaming and shouting and thinking, I can't do this, what's
You're
going to happen?
holding your nose tightly.
But ultimately, you go back to ABC, if there's an airway compromise, is there breathing compromise, there's circulation. And ultimately, if it's a job that you've never been to, just go back. If in doubt, deal with one thing at a time and just go from there. And even going back to what you just said, Zoya, thinking, is the perpetrator still on scene, the person that had the knife or the gun or just a weapon, it's the first thing on the primary survey is danger. Seeing if there's a danger to yourself and your colleague. If there's a threat to you, you don't go forward.
Definitely.
And that's at that point is when we contact the police.
Exactly. That the victim's safety and your safety comes across as well at the same time. So you're not gonna
I can't go ahead with my interventions and help this patient if then there's a danger and a threat to myself.
Absolutely, yes.
So at that point, we contact police and we'll get police on scene and we will have eyes on the patient, but just from a far distance, and let the police intervene first and just make sure there's no weapons on scene, and just make sure that we're not at a threat, and then continue with everything that we would do. And obviously that ended with the patient had been stabbed by 3 teenagers, and he was it was an unprovoked situation. And he was, catastrophically hemorrhaging, but we, gave him the interventions that we needed to. We were on scene for 4 minutes, which is very, very good.
Very critical as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And got him straight to hospital. And, in that sense, I'm really grateful for even Peterborough Hospital because we do have a really good resuscitation team, and when you do call, the call will pretty much be picked up instantly. And when I got there, I had a team of 30 doctors from all different specialities. So from orthopedics, from neuro, from every specialty, ready to get the handover to help this patient. And I think that is such a nice thing to come across because how many countries are out there, third world countries that don't have that support, don't have those systems.
And we're quite privileged in this scenario, definitely. Right, so it's really interesting, isn't it, to know much things which we've not been revealed, isn't it, until we have Medea in the show and to talk about more and more and more. I feel like talking more and to find more about what's happening backside. This is behind the scenes, behind the camera. I'll leave it to you now. What you have in your box to ask?
I wanted to ask you, so as a paramedic, do you think you would have enough facilities to work on patients and like solve their problem and things like that?
In general,
I think, to put it as simple as I possibly can, no. We will never have enough facilities to help patients because we are in such high demand, and as the population is growing, there's more of a detriment to our services, especially if you look at where we are in terms of the year at the moment. We're in winter pressures, but winter pressures haven't actually properly kicked in just yet, and I feel like there are in terms of COVID-19 kicking in, that has put on a lot of pressure on GPs, dentists, and people aren't getting the procedures that they need because their referrals aren't going through. They are on a long waiting list. People can't get onto a NHS dentist or anything like that. So it's a huge ripple effect. A lot of the jobs that I go to can be dealt with in the community, but because people can't get in contact with their GPs, it then puts a lot of demand on the emergency services, because then people automatically think, well, if I can't get through to my GP and, I've had a persistent cough for 4 weeks, let's just say, they then think, do you know what, I'm just going to call for an ambulance. And then, we go there and, ultimately, a lot of patients will then apologise and just think, I'm sorry I've called, but I've been left with no choice. And ultimately it's like, well, no, we're here with you now. We will do everything that we can to help you. We'll get prescriptions and everything in place, but ultimately the government need to find a way to help patients even more, because we need a lot more. There aren't enough facilities, and I think if we continue going the way we are, we will be in a lot of trouble going forward.
Right, but yeah, we're going to continue our conversations because we got a time for a short commercial break, which sometimes we have to really stop for a few seconds and we'll continue after that. Is right?
Now my presence just a cry, but I was gifted another chance by.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
Satisfy your cravings at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant. Enjoy a tantalizing variety of Chinese, Italian, Pakistani and comfort food favorites, from starters to desserts. Kids under 5 dine for free, so bring the whole family to our location at 63 Sycamore Avenue. Open every day from 5 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. Call us on 01733 313131 or book online to reserve your table. Ibrahimi-restaurant.co.uk. Every bite is a delight at Ibrahimi Buffet Restaurant.
Need a taxi that won't break the bank? Amar Cabs offers safe local rides at affordable prices, starting at £3.99. Get to Heathrow for £120 and London Stansted or London Luton for just £88. Private school and executive business class drop-offs are also available. Booking is easy. Go to www.amarcabs.com and download our app on Android or iOS, or call 01733 555 888. Wherever you're headed, Amar Cabs is just a tap away with reliable, affordable rides starting at just £3.99.
2020 World Buffet is inspired by the best foods from around the world. See our teppanyaki chefs grill your food to order, or choose delicious Indian, Italian, Chinese, Mexican dishes and British favourites, all halal. 2020 World Buffet offers you unlimited food at a set price. Open 7 days for lunch and dinner. Catering, wedding and party services available too. Call 01733 566 320 or visit 2020buffet.co.uk. 2020 World Buffet, 35 New Road, Peterborough, PE1 1FJ.
ये कोविड-19 फ्लू से अपने आप को बचाने का वक्त है। अगर आप या खानदान का कोई फर्द इस मौसम सरमा में वैक्सीन के अहल हैं, तो आप आसानी से अपॉइंटमेंट बुक कर सकते हैं या ऑनलाइन वॉक इन क्लिनिक तलाश कर सकते हैं। और यहाँ तक कि अगर आपको पहले कोविड-19 या फ्लू की वैक्सीन लग चुकी है, ये बाकायदा फरोग देने वालों के लिए सिर्फ एक जॉब था। मुकम्मल तौर पर महफूज रहना अभी भी जरूरी है। मजीद जानने के लिए कोविड और फ्लू की वैक्सीन पीटरबोरो के लिए ऑनलाइन तलाश करें।
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in for takeaway or delivery, Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking piri-piri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
Where can you get high quality and low prices? Amar Food Store and Halal Meat in Lincoln Road, Triangle is the place to go. Pay us a visit and take advantage of our special offers and great range of products on groceries, vegetables, fruits and halal meat. Also send money to Pakistan absolutely free. We have all top brands at special offers, offer free customer parking and provide a free local delivery service. Amar Food Store and Halal Meat, 613B Lincoln Road, Peterborough. Call us on 01733 687 374. High in quality, low in prices.
You're listening to Peterborough's community radio, Salam Radio. Salam Radio. 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back all the listeners and viewers. Salam Radio 106.2 FM and शो जो आप मुलाहिज़ा फरमा रहे हैं, देख रहे हैं, सुन रहे हैं, वो है मम एंड मी रेडियो नेविगेटिंग द यूथ जर्नी। और आज हमारे साथ बहुत ही प्यारी सी, बहुत ही अच्छी सी, वेरी आउटस्पोकन एंड लवली, वेरी ओपन एंड ऑनेस्ट पर्सनालिटी मिस मदिया रियाज, जो कि NHS पैरामेडिक्स हैं। और इनसे बात करके हमें बहुत ही लुत्फ़ अंदोज़ हो रहे हैं, बहुत मज़ा आ रहा है मुझे ज़ोया को, क्योंकि इट्स लाइक you know, we are just trying to find out कि असल में जो दुनिया है पैरामेडिक्स की वो होती कैसी है, इनका क्या स्केड्यूल होता है। हम देखते हैं इनको दौड़ते भागते, लेकिन जो अंदर से जो तमाम हालात हैं, जो इनकी जो डिवोशंस हैं, जो इनकी मेहनत है, मेहनत तलबी है, और जो जिस तरह से ये रूटीन करते हैं हम सब की जान बचाने के लिए, वो काबिल सताइश है। सो अगर आप इसमें कुछ कमेंट्स देना चाहते हैं, कुछ बात करना चाहते हैं, और अगर आप इस वक्त इस प्रोग्राम को नहीं सुन पा रहे, लेकिन अगर आप इस प्रोग्राम को बाद में देखना चाहते हैं, रिकॉर्डेड प्रोग्राम, यू कैन वॉच थ्रू यूट्यूब, यू कैन हैव द लाइव स्ट्रीम थ्रू फेसबुक, एक्स एंड ट्विच। और अगर आप चाहते हैं इस प्रोग्राम में शामिल होना, तो यू कैन डायल अस थ्रू 01733602133 पे। डजंट मैटर आप ड्राइव कर रहे हैं, काम कर रहे हैं, मसरूफ़ हैं, और अगर आप चाहेंगे टेक्स्ट स्टॉप करें तो यू कैन डू इट थ्रू 07411191062 पे। तो वेलकम वोट मदिया, एक दफ़ा फिर आपको हम वेलकम करते हैं इस शो में।
Thank you very much for having me.
अच्छा, तो हम चूँकि वक्त कम है और मुकाबला सख्त है, हमें आपसे बहुत सारी बातें पूछनी हैं, और हमें बड़ा अच्छा, जैसे कि हम बता चुके हैं, कि लग रहा है कि आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। कुछ और भी हमारे जहन में क्वेश्चन, लेकिन मैं ज़ोया को मौका देती हूँ कि वो जो भी पूछना चाहें वो, ताकि देन आई विल आस्क द रेस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन जो मेरे जहन में है इस वक्त। जी ज़ोया।
तो मेरा क्वेश्चन था, how many years do you need to get training as a paramedic?
So there are a couple of ways to become a paramedic. So the way I become a paramedic was by going to university. So it's a 3-year degree. So it's a BSc with honours. So 3 years at university, or you can go through the East of England Ambulance Trust. So they will pay for it. And ultimately, you know, you start at the bottom of the food chain. You know, you are an emergency care assistant. You then travel up to apprentice technician, then to a qualified technician, and then you go on to do your 2-year diploma at university with the trust, in-house with the ambulance service, and then 2 years at university, and then you become a qualified paramedic. Your training doesn't end there. You know, medicine is constantly evolving, and, you know, no 2 days are the same. So at the moment, so although I am a qualified paramedic, I still have a further 2 years of extra training to do. Just, you know, you won't always know it. And, you know, I've always said to people, the day you go into work thinking you know it all is the day you need to come off the road.
Yeah.
Because you don't.
Yeah.
And, you know, medicine
Absolutely.
is so...
Absolutely, I know. It's an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
You never end up with,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
And, so it's... Although it's, you know, a 4-year, 3-year course, you're always learning. You know, you always have your e-learning to do.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. But so university 3 years, or you can go through the trust. And, you know, looking back, if I knew there was the in-house route with the ambulance service, I would have done that. because you won't get yourself into a lot of debt with university or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it seems like a long time to go, but it's honestly so worth it. And I say, if anyone is considering to do it, stick to it and carry on through.
I'm sure that there are a lot of people, kids or the young adults who want to do that. So is that self-funded or the funding has been provided by the government, Matia?
So with the university route, so if you are going straight, from post-16, so from like A-levels or college straight to university, you do have the opportunity to get funding through the government, so student finance it. But if you are going through the trust, it's for free. So it's as if you are doing an apprenticeship,
right?
And you get paid whilst you're
That's
learning.
Good.
Which I think is a huge benefit to yourself, because you're not getting yourself into debt, but then at the same time you're learning whilst you're working, and it's a lot more hands-on. And you're doing the job that you'll be doing when you qualify. So with that, you don't get into debt, and the 2-year diploma course that you do end up doing towards the end of it, again, it's funded through the NHS, so you will leave debt-free, which I highly recommend. And going forward, although I did do the university route, and I have come out, as much as I've done the placements and everything as well, I have come out with more textbook knowledge. So I can go to a job and think, right, this needs to be done, and the pathophysiological side of it and everything, I've got a lot of knowledge on that side as well. But with the in-house trust route, you have a lot more hands-on on the road doing the job. So it just depends on what suits you better, but there's an option for both.
Right. As all work under UK resuscitation.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's been covered. Wonderful. Right, Zoya.
So I had one more question. So when you said you have those stages of becoming a qualified ambulance paramedic, and you were qualified, and what stage do you need to be up till when you can actually go on jobs to, like, in ambulances, and you can just go help people? So, like, what stages?
Maneuvers on patients, you can practically save lives.
Yeah, so you can start as an emergency care assistant. So the emergency care assistant is the equivalent of a healthcare assistant in the hospital. You just have a different scope of practice. So, with an ECA, so an emergency care assistant, there are only, a minute amount of, medications that they can give to patients.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they can still do all assessments pretty much. There may be, a few that they can't, but you'll always have another colleague with you that can.
Supervising you.
Yes, absolutely. So, unless I have someone that's more senior than myself, so a paramedic that's been on the road for many, many more years than I have been, I'm the senior clinician, and, I can then, as long as it's under my supervision, I can then guide them into what they want, what they can do with the patient. But ultimately, you go out on the road from day one. So as soon as you've finished your in-house training with the trust, you will go out on the road and you'll treat patients, and you'll do everything that I do. It's just I will be able to give certain drugs, I'll be able to cannulate, I'll be able to actually intervene, but they'll just be assisting me with these situations. That's basically all it is.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I must have cried 1,000 times.
सो टाइम इतनी जल्दी गुजर रहा है कि हमें पता ही नहीं चला कि हम प्रोग्राम के ख़त्म होने के नज़दीक पहुंच गए। तो इससे पहले कि हम प्रोग्राम का वक्त ख़त्म हुआ जाए, तो हम कुछ और जो सवाल हैं वो पूछना चाहेंगे मदिया से। जोया, आप पूछेंगी, मेरे जहन में भी कुछ अच्छे क्वेश्चंस हैं।
I don't mind.
Okay. Acha, I just have one question, sir. Do you have, I heard about, when the emergency comes across, you have to do CPR and defibrillations. And there are sometimes nearby defibrillation centers as well. So I just want you to know, to tell our youngsters, youth, young generations in the community, how does it work? And is there really important that we should really get trained for resuscitation or CPR? What is that? So, yeah, please.
So CPR is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It is basically when the heart stops working and the heart stops beating and the patient is no longer breathing. I think it's so important for especially the younger generation, like the youth, the children's, to have training on CPR and, you know, how effectively to complete CPR from primary school. I think it's so important because, you know, there are so many times where, you know, you go to patients and they are of good health, they have no conditions, they have no illnesses, they aren't on any medication, and they just suffer from a cardiac event and drop down. And it's so important to get onto the chest and start compressions because early intervention is what will save lives.
Sure.
And if we don't have, you know, the children of society learning that now, you know, that is what then causes deaths and all of that stuff. In terms of when it should be implemented, from as young as they possibly can be, you know, even if it's something as small as, you know, when children are, you know, learning the ABCs, you know, getting them to understand, you know, if mum or dad is ill or if grandparents are ill or, you know, if there's a family member that aren't, you know, well, knowing, you know, they can pick up 999 and knowing their address, you know, small information like that.
Early interventions are there,
absolutely, because it makes a world of a difference.
Absolutely.
You know, they may not be able to say, oh, mummy's not feeling well, but as long as they can identify that and be able to pick up the phone and call 999, call 999, it makes a huge difference because it gets them that intervention early. In terms of defibrillators, you know, we are fortunate to have, you know, a government that have funded defibrillators and have them plotted in certain areas. You know, like within Peterborough, you have quite a few different defibrillators everywhere. You know, you have them at mostly like public places, so you know you have them at the masjids, you have them at the mosques,
libraries as well.
Libraries, you have them at you know, certain, so like shopping centres or some food places like bigger chains, stuff like so it's in terms of getting in contact with the services. You know, if you've come across someone that is no longer, doesn't have a pulse, is not breathing, I would say start on the chest, start compressions, and ultimately if you can get to a defibrillator site, it's very, very simple. You just follow the steps on the defibrillation box. So the first step is call 999. They will give you a code. You pop the code in and you take the defibrillator out. And, you know, it will speak to you. It will tell you exactly what you need to do. It's made for the public that aren't in the medical professional.
So just for the clarity, public people, I mean, just a common person, any public can deal with AED or these defibrillators, because all the instructions they have to follow, they can save lives. It's not only necessary the paramedics have to do it.
No. So, you know, we have a slightly different defibrillator. You know, it's more advanced. You know, we can do ECGs and find out, you know, if the person is having a heart attack, whereabouts in the heart is the heart attack taking place. But with the defibrillators in the public, that is for your, you know, your common everyday to day person that's on the street. You know, your typical bystanders that will, you know, apply the pads where they need to be, because there will be instructions, there will, you know, it's on the pads. And, you know, it will speak out to you. It will tell you if you need to push harder, if you need to fully release, if you need to take a break, if you need to check for a pulse. But all in that time, we are then travelling to the patient, getting there as fast as we, you know, possibly can, as safely as we can, to then continue the interventions. But the one biggest thing to take away from this is starting compressions as early as you possibly can, identifying that someone is in critical, you know, danger, and just starting compressions. I think, you know, we have certain charities that will go out to, you know, public places, schools, you know, shopping centres, and they'll have, you know, the dummies there so you can practice.
Sure.
But I think it's so important to have schools especially to act upon this and have just activities where people can practice CPR, because it does save lives.
So Zoya, and to summarize, what is the first step to do as a child?
You have to learn it at school.
Yeah, 999.
999. Information, you should know your information, like your address, where you live.
Yeah.
And if you're old enough, you should know what your parents going through, at least their condition, at least what's happening to them, if they're they're having an allergy, they have, I don't know, asthma.
Any medical conditions, and compressions, how to do the heart compressions.
So is it like that, or like this, or?
It all depends.
Yeah.
It's what makes you feel more comfortable. You can put one palm on top of the other and use the bottom. Yeah, that's it.
The heel of your hip.
But ultimately, it's different for each age. So whether you're going to a child, you tend to use two thumbs.
Yeah.
Or if it is like an adult, you will use both palms, because you have more of a cavity to get through in order to push through. And the other thing that I will say is, don't be afraid if you hear, this is going to sound quite brutal, but don't be afraid if you hear ribs cracking, because that is when you are doing the right pressure, the right depth. And ultimately, you can fix some broken ribs. You can't
outweighs the fracture of the ribs. Just I know it's brutal, but but saving lives definitely.
Yeah. What if the what's it called again?
Defibrillator.
That. What if it breaks and you only had one?
Just continue with manual CPR. So just continue with manual compressions, and ultimately, So with our response times, if it is a cardiac event, if someone is in cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest, you tend to have respiratory arrest more for children, and cardiac events for adults. As long as you've called for an ambulance, and you will only be able to get the code if you have called for an ambulance, we will be there within 8 minutes. Obviously, given the fact that there may be external factors like traffic or anything like that, but we are so fortunate to be in the UK where the members of the public will move out of their way for us, because they understand that this is an emergency.
Beautiful when I say
absolutely. But we will be there as soon as we possibly can be, and we will then take over. And we may then have you still there to help with CPR, because we're trying to get more resources there to us, because we have now acknowledged that this is a life-threatening event, and we probably will still have you there if we're in the public, for example, but ultimately, if, let's just say, in the unfortunate circumstance, it did break, just continue with manual
compressions. Right. Sorry, just continuous talking to you, because it's so interesting to know, to be honest, more and more.
It's a good topic to talk about, because not many people know about this. And knowledge is key. And I always say, if you can share even just one piece of wisdom, it will go far.
So what happens? That only happens in the swimming pools. So if this type of accident happens, so in that case, they also need CPR, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To get the water out
and if you have, let's just say, if you were in like a swimming pool environment, so if you were in a facility, they will have lifeguards, they will activate 999, and we'll obviously get there as well. But ultimately, if you can suction any fluid out of their mouth, just anything that's lingering around, getting them, whether if it's a drowning and it's not a complete drowning where they are just choking, getting them in recovery position as well. But ultimately, if you can't feel for a pulse, start compressions, and hopefully that will kick out any fluid out of their lungs, and suction as much as you can if you do have a suction machine.
Absolutely. So I'm just wondering, those small sessions or life-saving courses being taught in your primary sessions or in your secondary school, you haven't started secondary school, sorry, in the primary school. So have you taken anything? Or if not, then could you do recommendation to the authorities? I'll do the same as well, because we'll be working as the community governor, so we can raise that voice and we can ask them to incorporate those courses.
Yeah.
Have they ever done those courses? Just asking about. Have you been across with any kind of training?
Only been, I think I I've heard of CPR before, but I never. I knew what CPR was. It was something to do with your hands and go on its chest. And I've only seen like in movies it happens a lot. And you know, it's like a movie that someone's just drowning and then they're just coming out, and then ambulances just came and then they're doing CPR on the patient, and then they're like coughing out any of the fluids that they had in their lungs or the water that they had. And
you have seen it in
I've seen
movies
it,
and videos.
I've never seen it in real life.
So I think we're gonna. This is one of the best outcome through your interview, Madhya, that we can definitely. It's just like thought provoking and eye opener that we can speak to the. We can really request the high authorities to keep engaging kids and start preliminary sessions for the life saving courses for the children of the different grades.
With the East of England Ambulance Service, they are really good in terms of, you know, doing career events and, you know, taking place with schools that have career events to help people understand, you know, all the different career paths that they can go into. And they will have stuff like, you know, dummies there and, you know, just teach you small CPR sessions, what to do in terms of chokings, you know, whether you need to...
or identify.
Identify if someone is choking, give them back blows, where to obviously give them their back blows and where to place your hands to, you know, do the Heimlich manoeuvre. So it's always good to get in contact with the East of England Ambulance Service, and you know, I can obviously pass on contact details if you need that, because they would be more than happy to come out and just speak to, you know, a year group or anything like that, you know, in an assembly, just to put forward how important it is.
I think I would love to take all the details and we can pass it over to the schools. And we can like do something really beneficial for the community in that way, isn't it? A very quick question, and Zoya has got some question as well, and we're going to have much time. Out of curiosity, do you have any statistics, people using AED on their own? I know you just explained that people can do it, it's just for the normal, common people. When you come across and you found out that people start doing it in public places, have you come across or you found out any data for that?
I don't know off the top of my head, but ultimately, an AED is exactly what we would use for a patient. It's just our equipment's just a bit more advanced. That's all it is. But ultimately, what you are doing in terms of delivering a shock, and it will identify which rhythm a patient is in, and whether the patient has a pulse or not. It is very straightforward, just like reading a recipe for making a cake. I'm really sorry, I don't know actual a number of statistics or anything like that. But there is if you can get a defibrillator on scene before an ambulance can get there, there is a high chance that you will help that patient out even more, because not many people will think about, I can get a defibrillator in the public.
Sure.
So even having that and having, you know, the pads in the right placement and starting compressions, you will have a far better outcome than not having that at all.
So the reason I'm asking the question, because just to give a message to people who are listening, do not get scared using AED. Do it.
It's
you can
honestly,
save life.
Once you actually go through the instructions, and it will read out everything out loud, and it will tell you exactly what to do. It's not a case of, you know, I've never done a healthcare course or anything like that. It's made for the public.
Wonderful.
It's made for your everyday to day people that have no idea when it comes to, you know, the medical profession, and anyone can use it from any age, and you can use it, and don't be afraid to use it, because you will save a life.
Wonderful. So you're all listening to Mom and Me Radio. We have got a beautiful guest with us, Miss Madhya Riaz, and she's working as NHS paramedics. We are having lots of interesting questions, a very fantastic conversation. And if you want to be the part, or you want to drop any text, you want to need to ask any questions, you can still ask. Though we haven't got many minutes left to finish the due program. The number you can call is 01733 602 133. Otherwise, you can watch our recorded show on YouTube. We can watch the live stream on Facebook, X and Twitch.
Special love.
Gee, Zoya.
Okay. So we only have a little bit time left, but I just wanted to ask this question: have you ever so I know people just fall down and they injure themselves or they have a broken leg, but in a life or death situation, have you ever had that?
In what sense do you mean?
So when it's so it's not like an injury or anything, it's a life or death situation.
An event which is worth sharing. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I feel very privileged to say that. I feel honoured to say that because I am being trusted with, someone's family member to go out to them and provide them the care that they need. We get a little information when we get, a job come through. When someone calls 999, the information that comes through to us is not always correct. So you always have to go into a job with an open mind thinking, it could be absolutely fine or it could be the complete opposite, and you don't know what you're going into. So you always have to have your mind switched on to face the worst possible outcome. You go to jobs like that all the time. A job that a patient had a fall and hit their head, but is talking, is conscious and everything, but you go in and you can clearly see that they are having a stroke. So it's whether it's a case of we need to get them into hospital ASAP, so that they can obviously get in theatres or have thrombolysis or anything done like that. Or whether it's a patient in cardiac arrest like we have been speaking about. It just depends on the situation, and it's always take it with a pinch of salt.
Wonderful. So thank you once again, Madhya, for being the part of our show. It's lovely speaking to you, honestly speaking. Because हमारे प्रोग्राम का वक्त खत्म हुआ चाहता है, तो हम इजाज़त चाहेंगे. Thank you once again. Thank you, Zoya. I will see you all on next Sunday. Next Sunday, sorry. The program is bi-weekly. We're doing twice a month. So we're going to see very soon with another fantastic guest in the show. और आपके लिए कहूँगी कि मदिया के लिए एक अच्छा सा शेर कहती जाऊँगी कि आसानियों से न पूछ मंजिल का रास्ता, अपनी राह के पत्थर तलाश कर, ज़र्रे से कायनात की तफसीर पूछ ले, कतरे की वसतों में दरिया तलाश कर. Thank you very much. Take care yourself. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.